Did you ever wonder what it was like to grow old in a time when the world was filled with strange wonders and ancient beliefs? What if getting older wasn't a burden, but a pathway to unexpected happiness? What if the Middle Ages, that period stretching from the 5th to the 15th century, held secrets about the joys of aging that we have completely forgotten? Number 1. The privilege of gentle passing. Life in the Middle Ages was, for many, a short and often brutal affair, a journey through a world where disease lingered and sudden violence could strike. Yet, for those who managed to navigate its treacherous waters and reach old age, there was a particular kind of privilege waiting, one that many modern minds might struggle to grasp: the concept of a gentle passing. When an elder reached the twilight of their years, their community often wrapped them in a comforting embrace, preparing not for a battle against the inevitable, but for a peaceful transition. This was not about extending life at all costs, but about ensuring a serene departure, surrounded by love and piety. The very idea of a good death was deeply ingrained in medieval society, particularly for the old. It was not a terrifying enemy to be fought with every last breath, but a natural, even anticipated part of the life cycle. For an elder, a good death meant dying at home, in their own bed, surrounded by their family and community. It meant having time to confess their sins, to receive the last rites from a priest, and to make peace with God and man. This was a death prepared for, not stumbled upon. Chroniclers and illuminated manuscripts often depict such scenes, showing a dying elder with family gathered around, their faces solemn but not necessarily distraught, understanding this was the ordained path. The family would hold vigil, praying, singing hymns, and sharing memories, making the final moments a communal experience rather than a lonely one. The physical and spiritual comfort provided during these final days was paramount. Medieval medicine, while rudimentary by today's standards, focused heavily on easing pain and ensuring dignity for the dying. Herbal remedies were administered to soothe discomfort, and the dying person was kept as clean and comfortable as possible. More importantly, the spiritual comfort was immense. Priests would be summoned to administer the sacrament of extreme unction, also known as the last rites, which was believed to cleanse the soul of sin and prepare it for entry into the afterlife. This ritual was not just a formality. It was a deeply meaningful and emotionally resonant act for the dying person and their family, offering immense peace of mind and the promise of salvation. The elder, having lived a long life, was seen as closer to God, and their passing was often viewed as a journey to a better place, not an end. Furthermore, the act of dying for an elder was often accompanied by specific social rituals that reinforced their importance, even in their final moments. They might be given the opportunity to impart final blessings, to settle any disputes, or to distribute their worldly possessions. This was not merely about inheritance, it was about ensuring that the elder's legacy and wisdom continued even after their physical presence departed. For example, a dying elder in a peasant community might pass down specific farming knowledge, or a skilled craftsperson might reveal a unique technique to their apprentice or child, making their death not a loss of knowledge, but a transmission. This continuity provided a sense of purpose and closure for the elder, knowing their life's work and wisdom would live on. The community's response to an elder's death also provided a unique comfort. When an old person passed, especially one who had been a respected member of the community, the entire village or town might partake in the mourning rituals. Funerals were significant events, often involving processions, communal prayers, and a shared meal. This collective grieving was not just for the sake of the living. It was an honor to the deceased, a public acknowledgement of their life and contributions. Unlike in some modern settings, where death can be privatized and hidden in the Middle Ages, the death of an elder was often a public event, reaffirming their place within the social fabric, even as they left it. This shared experience meant the elder did not face death alone, and their memory was honored by the community they had served for so long. Even the perception of death itself contributed to this gentle passing. In a deeply Christian society, death was not an end, but a gateway to eternal life. For an elder who had lived a devout life, death was seen as a triumphant return to God, a reward for their earthly struggles. This theological framework provided immense comfort and reduced the fear of dying. Illuminated manuscripts often depict saints or pious individuals, often shown as elderly, ascending to heaven, emphasizing the positive aspect of death for the faithful. The elder, having fulfilled their earthly duties, could look forward to paradise, free from suffering and earthly woes. This anticipation of spiritual reward was a profound source of peace in their final days. Finally, the simple fact that one had reached old age was, in itself, a testament to their strength and good fortune in a challenging era. To die peacefully in one's bed, surrounded by loved ones, after a long life was considered a blessing. It was a privilege denied to many who succumbed to plague, famine, or war in their youth or middle age. For an elder, this gentle passing was the culmination of a life well lived, a dignified farewell in a world that rarely offered such certainty or peace. It was not a sad ending, but a revered and gentle transition, an honor that many in medieval society would have yearned for. Number 2. The harvest of accumulated experience. Imagine a time when books were rare treasures, and formal schooling was a luxury enjoyed by very few in such a world. Where did knowledge come from? How were skills passed down from one generation to the next? The answer often lay in the living libraries of the elderly. Reaching old age in the Middle Ages meant you were a walking, talking repository of invaluable experience, a master of skills refined over decades, and a mentor whose insights were vital to the community's survival and prosperity. This accumulated wisdom was not just respected. It was actively sought after, making the elder a central figure in the transmission of knowledge and the continuity of life. In a world reliant on agricultural cycles, an old peasant farmer knew the land like no written almanac ever could. They understood the subtle shifts in weather patterns, the best times for planting and harvesting specific crops, and the signs that foretold a good or bad yield. They could tell you which patches of soil yielded the sweetest carrots, or where the winter wheat would thrive best. Young farmers, eager for a successful harvest, would constantly seek their counsel. The elder farmer, having tilled the same fields for 50 years or more, had a practical knowledge of agronomy that was irreplaceable. Their experience was the community's insurance policy against famine, a silent but powerful force guiding the rhythm of village life. They were the original agricultural scientists, their data collected over a lifetime of observation. Beyond farming, virtually every craft and trade relied on this intergenerational transfer of knowledge. The master mason, whose hands had shaped stones for churches and castles for decades, held the secrets of durable construction. They knew how to choose the right stone, how to mix mortar that would withstand centuries, and how to engineer arches that defied gravity. Young apprentices would spend years, even decades, under their tutelage, learning not from textbooks, but from the slow, patient instruction and demonstration of an elder craftsman. The techniques for weaving a strong cloth, forging a sharp blade, or tanning leather to perfection were not written down in manuals. They resided in the muscle memory and practiced hands of the old master. These elders were not just teachers. They were the guardians of their craft's lineage, ensuring that vital skills continued to enrich the community. Even within households, the elder woman was a formidable source of accumulated wisdom, particularly in matters of health and domestic economy. She knew which herbs could soothe the fever, which poultices could draw out infection, and which concoctions could aid in childbirth. Her knowledge of traditional remedies, passed down through generations of oral tradition, was often the primary healthcare system for the family and even the wider community. She also held the secrets to preserving food, managing the household budget, and educating the children. Her experience in managing resources, surviving lean times, and nurturing a family through sickness and health made her an indispensable matriarch. Her advice sought on everything from a sick child to a difficult neighbor. In urban settings, the guild system formalized this reverence for experienced elders. Guilds were associations of craftsmen or merchants who regulated their trade and provided mutual support. To become a master craftsman in a guild often required years of apprenticeship and journeyman experience, culminating in the creation of a masterpiece that demonstrated one's skill. The elder masters of the guild held immense authority and prestige. They were the ones who set the standards, judged the quality of goods, and arbitrated disputes. Their long careers had given them an intimate understanding of market demands, material sourcing, and the intricacies of their trade, making their counsel invaluable for younger members striving to succeed. A younger weaver seeking to expand his loom business would certainly consult the eldest master for advice on pricing, new dye sources, or navigating tricky trade routes. The accumulated experience of elders also extended to social and legal matters. In many communities, especially in rural areas, the oldest members were often the unofficial arbitrators of disputes. Having witnessed generations of quarrels, agreements, and resolutions, they possessed a deep understanding of local customs, family histories, and community dynamics. Their long memory could recall precedents, unspoken agreements, and the true character of individuals, making their judgments carry significant weight. A village elder might be called upon to settle a land dispute between two families, or to mediate an argument over stolen livestock. Their decisions, rooted in a lifetime of observation and local knowledge, were often more effective and respected than any formal decree from a distant lord. Furthermore, the very act of surviving to old age in the Middle Ages was itself a testament to considerable wisdom and resilience. It meant navigating plagues, famines, wars, and the myriad dangers of daily life. An elder had learned invaluable lessons about adaptation, perseverance, and resourcefulness. They knew how to stretch meager supplies, how to find safety in dangerous times, and how to rebuild after disaster. This practical wisdom born from survival was a silent curriculum for the younger generations. They observed the elders' calm demeanor in crisis, their measured responses, and their ability to find solutions where others saw only despair. This lived experience, this true grit, was perhaps the most profound lesson an elder could impart, a testament to the harvest of their years. Number 3. The Sanctuary from Conflict's Call. The Middle Ages were in many respects a turbulent time, marked by a constant undercurrent of conflict. From petty feuds between local lords to grand crusades, warfare was a grim reality that could intrude upon anyone's life at almost any moment. For the majority of men, the summons to military service, whether as a knight, a foot soldier, or a peasant levy, was an ever-present possibility. Yet, for those who lived long enough to attain true old age, a unique and deeply valued sanctuary emerged. Exemption from the grueling, dangerous, and often fatal call to arms. This was not merely a relief, but a profound privilege, offering a measure of peace in a world frequently defined by the clang of steel and the cries of battle. Once a man reached a certain age, often considered around 60 or beyond, the expectation of his participation in warfare significantly diminished. This wasn't just a matter of declining physical strength, though that certainly played a role. It was also a recognition of their status as elders, individuals whose contributions to the community were now seen as more vital in other areas. A knight might have hung up his sword and armor, replaced by younger, stronger men eager for glory or duty. A peasant, once compelled to join the levy with a crude spear, was now expected to tend to the village's needs, not its battlefields. The idea was that the elders' wisdom and experience were better utilized within the community's domestic sphere, ensuring its continuity rather than risking them on the field of combat. Consider the physical toll of medieval warfare. Battles were brutal, hand-to-hand affairs, demanding immense stamina, agility, and raw power. Prolonged sieges meant enduring hunger, disease, and constant exposure to the elements. For an older individual, even if they had been a seasoned warrior in their youth, these demands were simply too great. The body, having endured decades of labor or previous campaigns, was no longer suited for the rigors of combat. Thus, exemption from military service was a practical acknowledgement of physical limitations, but also a respectful concession to a life already lived in service. It was a societal understanding that the elder had earned their rest from such arduous duties. Moreover, the psychological burden of constant readiness for war was immense. Communities lived with the ever-present threat of raids, invasions, and internal conflicts. For younger men, this meant training, drilling, and maintaining a constant vigilance. For the elderly, this burden was lifted. They could focus on their families, their farms, or their crafts without the looming shadow of a potential call-up. This freedom from the anxiety of impending battle, from the fear of injury or death on the battlefield, was a psychological liberation. They had fulfilled their martial duties in their youth, or simply outlived the age of active participation, and now their role shifted to one of stability and preservation within the home front. Even in times of severe crisis, when every able-bodied person was called upon, the elderly were rarely forced into direct combat roles. They might contribute in other ways, such as guarding the village, providing logistical support, or caring for the wounded. But the front lines, the clashes of swords and shields, were reserved for the young and strong. This informal retirement from military duty meant that elders could maintain a greater degree of safety and security during times of widespread conflict. While their communities might suffer, the elders themselves were largely spared the immediate horrors of battle, a stark contrast to younger generations who faced the very real prospect of being killed or maimed at any moment. This exemption also reinforced the elder's role as a non-combatant, a figure of stability and continuity. While young men left to fight, the elders remained holding the community together, preserving its customs and caring for the children and the vulnerable. They became the anchors in a stormy sea, ensuring that life continued even when many were away or lost. Their very presence was a testament to survival, a symbol that the community would endure. This important role, though not heroic in the conventional sense, was deeply valued and provided a sense of purpose and pride. The elder might not wield a weapon, but they wielded the wisdom and experience necessary to keep the hearth fires burning. Finally, for those elders who had indeed served as warriors in their youth, this exemption was a well-earned respite. A grizzled veteran knight, having fought in countless skirmishes and tournaments, could finally enjoy a peaceful retirement at his manor, perhaps advising younger knights or recounting tales of his exploits. A peasant who had once marched with the local lord's levy could now tend his garden without fear of the next summons. This quiet dignity, this freedom from the arduous duties of warfare, was a significant benefit of reaching old age in the Middle Ages. It was a time to put down the sword, literally or figuratively, and embrace a different, less dangerous form of service to one's community, one centered on peace and preservation. Number 4. The serene path to spiritual comfort. In the medieval world, faith was not merely a personal choice. It was the very bedrock of existence, permeating every aspect of daily life, from dawn to dusk, from birth to death. For the elderly, This profound spiritual devotion offered a unique and deeply serene path, a comfort that transcended earthly concerns. Reaching old age was often viewed as a journey closer to God, a time for heightened piety, reflection, and preparation for the eternal life promised by the Church. This spiritual focus provided immense peace, a sense of purpose, and an unshakable hope, in a world that could otherwise be harsh and unpredictable. As people aged and their physical strength waned, the emphasis naturally shifted from worldly endeavors to spiritual pursuits. This was not a forced retreat, but often a willing embrace of a more contemplative life. Elders frequently dedicated more time to prayer, meditation, and participation in religious rituals. They might spend hours in church, attending multiple masses, or kneeling before altars in quiet devotion. Their prayers were not just for themselves, but often for their families, their community, and the souls of the departed. This increased spiritual activity provided a profound sense of peace and meaning, filling the quieter moments of old age with purpose and connection to the divine. The community, too, often saw elders as closer to God, as living examples of faith and devotion. Their long lives were often interpreted as a sign of divine favor, or at least as evidence of their perseverance in faith. This perception conferred a special reverence upon them. People might seek their spiritual counsel, asking for prayers or advice on matters of faith. An elder might be asked to lead the family in evening prayers, or to recount tales of saints and miracles to the younger generation. This role as a spiritual guide or moral compass provided a valuable sense of continued purpose and significance, making them pillars of the community's spiritual life. Many elders, especially those who had lived a life of relative privilege, might even choose to retire to a monastery or convent in their final years. This was seen as the ultimate dedication of one's remaining time to God, a serene environment where they could fully immerse themselves in prayer, study, and spiritual contemplation. For those who entered monastic life, it offered a structured daily routine, focused entirely on the sacred, providing a profound sense of peace and liberation from worldly cares. Even for those who remained in their homes, their daily lives often took on a monastic rhythm, marked by regular prayers and reflection, embracing a spiritual tranquility that few younger, more active individuals could achieve. The sacrament of confession, a vital part of medieval Catholic life, also took on added significance for the elderly. As they approached the end of their lives, many felt an increased urgency to cleanse their souls and make peace with God. Regular and thorough confessions provided immense psychological relief, unburdening them of past sins and anxieties. The priest, acting as a spiritual guide, would offer counsel and absolution, preparing the elder for a good death and the promise of salvation. This act of spiritual reconciliation offered a profound sense of serenity, a calm acceptance of their mortality, knowing they were ready to meet their Maker. Furthermore, the strong belief in an afterlife, a paradise for the faithful, provided an unwavering source of hope and comfort. Death was not the end, but a transition to a better place, free from earthly suffering and filled with eternal joy. For an elder who might be experiencing the physical frailties of age, this promise of a glorious afterlife was incredibly sustaining. They could look forward to reuniting with loved ones who had passed before them, and to experiencing the ultimate communion with God. This hopeful perspective transformed death from a terrifying unknown into an anticipated homecoming, a serene culmination of their earthly journey. The religious art and architecture of the Middle Ages often focused on themes of heaven. The saints and the virtues would have constantly reinforced this spiritual comfort for the elderly. Stained glass windows depicting heavenly scenes, sculptures of beatific saints, and the very structure of the church designed to lift the soul would have been daily reminders of their ultimate spiritual destination. For an elder whose physical world might be shrinking, The spiritual realm offered an infinite landscape of beauty, promise, and divine connection, making their final years a pathway to profound spiritual serenity. This deep well of faith provided not just a belief system, but a lived experience of comfort, hope, and peace in the face of life's eventual end. Number 5. The grandparents' special bond. In the extended family structures of the Middle Ages, where multiple generations often lived under one roof or in close proximity, the role of the grandparent was not merely one of affection, but of significant, indispensable value. This was a bond forged not just in love but in shared responsibility, providing elders with a unique and profoundly joyful purpose. Grandparents were often the informal educators, the patient caregivers, and the cherished storytellers, weaving together the fabric of family life and ensuring the continuity of traditions. This special relationship offered a wellspring of love, respect, and activity, making old age a period of nurturing and profound connection. For one, grandparents often played a crucial role in childcare. With parents frequently occupied by demanding agricultural labor, household chores, or trade, the elder members of the family often stepped in to look after the younger children. This wasn't a burden, but a natural division of labor that brought immense joy. An elderly grandmother might spend her days teaching her grandchildren rudimentary skills, like spinning wool or shelling peas, while an old grandfather might supervise them in the fields, showing them how to identify different plants or telling them tales of the past. This constant interaction with children kept elders engaged, active, and feeling vital, preventing the isolation that can sometimes accompany old age. The laughter and energy of children were a constant source of cheer and purpose. Beyond basic care, grandparents were the primary purveyors of oral tradition and family history. In a time before widespread literacy, the stories of ancestors, the lineage of the family, and the lore of the community were passed down by word of mouth. It was often the elder who knew these tales best, who could recount the deeds of long-dead relatives, the triumphs and tragedies of the village, or the mythical stories that explained the world. Gathered around the hearth in the evenings, children would listen spellbound as their grandparents wove narratives of bravery, love, and magic. This role as a living library of family and community memory was incredibly important and fostered a deep sense of respect and admiration from the younger generation. It gave the elder a powerful voice and an appreciative audience. Grandparents were also instrumental in imparting moral and ethical values. They taught children not just practical skills, but also the importance of honesty, hard work, piety, and respect for elders. Through countless small lessons, proverbs, and gentle corrections, they shaped the character of the next generation. This guidance was often more gentle and patient than that offered by busy parents, creating a unique space for learning and emotional development. The wisdom gained over decades of life was freely shared, helping the young navigate the complexities of their world. This active role in moral upbringing gave elders a deep sense of responsibility and fulfillment, knowing they were shaping future citizens. The bond was reciprocal. Children often provided comfort and care to their elderly grandparents. As grandparents became frailer, the young would fetch water, help with chores, or simply provide companionship. This intergenerational support system was a cornerstone of medieval family life, ensuring that elders were cared for with dignity and love. A grandchild might sit by their grandparents' bedside reading aloud or simply listening to their stories, offering a warm presence. This mutual dependence fostered deep familial bonds and ensured that no one was left alone in their old age. The joy derived from giving and receiving care within the family unit was profound and constant. Furthermore, the presence of grandparents stabilized family units. Their experience and wisdom could often mediate disputes between parents, offer advice on household management, or simply provide a calm presence in times of stress. They were often the emotional glue that held the family together, their long lives providing perspective and continuity. A young couple facing a difficult harvest or a family illness might turn to the elder members for guidance, knowing they had faced similar challenges in their own lives. This central stabilizing role gave elders a powerful sense of belonging and importance, confirming their invaluable contribution to the health and harmony of the household. Finally, the sheer joy of watching grandchildren grow, of seeing the fruits of one's lineage continue and flourish, was an unparalleled happiness. For an elder, seeing their family extend into the future, knowing they had played a direct part in nurturing new life and passing on their heritage, was a profound fulfillment. The laughter, the small achievements, the developing personalities of their grandchildren provided a constant source of wonder and renewed purpose. This deep, enduring connection to the next generation, woven into the fabric of daily life, ensured that old age was not a period of decline, but a vibrant continuation brimming with love and familial warmth. Number 6. The living chronicle of community lore. In a world before widespread literacy and mass media, where did people learn about their past? How did they keep track of local history, remember important events, or preserve the tales that define their community's identity? The answer often resided in the minds of the elderly. Reaching old age in the Middle Ages meant becoming a living chronicle, a walking library of community lore, historical events, and ancestral stories. This role as the keeper of memory was not just respected, it was vital, offering elders a profound sense of purpose, an attentive audience, and a unique position as the cultural glue that held their communities together. Elders were the primary custodians of oral tradition. They remembered the great floods, the harsh winters, the miraculous harvests, and the times of famine. They could recount the stories of legendary local figures, the founding of the village, or the lineage of the local lord. These narratives were not mere entertainment. They were the collective memory of the community, teaching lessons about resilience, morality, and survival. Gathered around the hearth on long winter nights, or during communal work breaks, younger generations would hang on their every word, learning about the struggles and triumphs that shaped their present. This made the elder an irreplaceable source of knowledge, their voice the very sound of history. Beyond grand historical events, elders were also repositories of more practical local knowledge. They knew the obscure boundaries of family lands, the traditional rights of commoners in the forest, or the customary ways of resolving disputes that had been passed down through generations. They remembered which families had long-standing feuds or alliances, the history of local landmarks, or the specific rituals for festivals. This intimate knowledge of local customs and precedents was crucial for maintaining social order and ensuring fair practices. When a boundary dispute arose or a question about traditional rights needed answering, the community would often turn to its oldest members for their authoritative memory. The recounting of genealogies was another vital role. In a time when family lineage was deeply important for identity, property rights, and social standing, elders were the keepers of the family tree. They could recite the names of ancestors, recall their deeds, and explain the relationships between various branches of a family. This was especially important in noble families, where lineage defined power, but also in peasant communities, where understanding kinship ties helped manage land and labor. For a young person, hearing their grandparent recite the names of their great-great-grandparents connected them to a deeper past, grounding their identity in a rich tapestry of familial history. Moreover, elders often served as moral compasses, their stories embedded with lessons and warnings. Tales of past transgressions and their consequences, or examples of virtuous living and their rewards, were powerful tools for moral education. They would weave these lessons into their anecdotes, showing through example what was considered right and wrong and reinforcing communal values. A story about a greedy miller who starved during a famine because he hoarded grain would serve as a powerful cautionary tale about generosity and community spirit. This made their storytelling not just informative, but formative, shaping the character of the young. The very act of being able to recall such a vast array of information from memory was a testament to their mental acuity and the respect it commanded. In a time when written records were scarce and often inaccessible to the common person, the human memory was the most reliable archive. For an elder to have lived through so much, to have observed and remembered, was seen as a sign of their wisdom and intelligence. Their ability to contextualize current events by referencing past ones made them invaluable advisors, their perspective broadened by decades of lived experience. Finally, this role as a living chronicle gave elders an active and engaging social life. People would seek them out, not just for practical advice, but to hear their stories, to learn about a bygone era, or simply to share in the warmth of their presence. They were not just tolerated. They were sought after, their company cherished, for the rich tapestry of memory they offered. This constant interaction, this sense of being needed and valued for their unique contributions, ensured that old age was not a period of quiet retirement, but a vibrant continuation of their central role within the community. Their voice the enduring sound of their collective past. Number 7. The sweet release from toil's grip. Life in the Middle Ages, especially for the vast majority of the population, was undeniably harsh, marked by relentless physical labor from sunup to sundown. From the moment one was strong enough to wield a hoe or carry a bucket, the demands of the farm or the craft were constant and unyielding. Yet, for those who managed to reach old age, there often came a moment of sweet liberation, a gradual and sometimes complete release from the most arduous physical toil. This transition was not a sign of becoming useless, but a recognition of a lifetime of contribution, offering elders a much-needed respite, a chance to oversee rather than perform, and a more comfortable twilight to their years. For the peasant farmer, old age meant a welcomed reduction in the back-breaking work of plowing, sowing, and harvesting. While younger, stronger family members took on the heaviest duties, the elder farmer might shift to lighter tasks. They might supervise the children, mend tools, tend to the garden, or watch over the livestock. Their decades of experience meant they were still invaluable, but their role transformed from physical laborer to manager and guide. This allowed their bodies, worn from a lifetime of effort, to rest, yet their minds remained engaged and vital to the family's success. The freedom from the most strenuous tasks was a profound comfort after a lifetime of exertion. In the craftsman's workshop, an elder master might no longer be swinging a hammer all day or operating a heavy loom. Instead, they would focus on the more intricate, delicate aspects of their craft, or on training apprentices. The master carpenter might spend his time designing complex joints, or teaching a young apprentice the precise angle for a roof beam. Rather than sawing logs himself, the elderly weaver might focus on intricate patterns or the preparation of dyes, leaving the heavy work of the loom to younger hands. Their expertise, refined over years, became the most valuable asset, transforming their role from raw physical output to one of refined skill and mentorship, a lighter but no less important burden. For women, old age often brought a similar shift from the most physically demanding domestic chores. While younger women would handle the heavy washing, grinding grain, or carrying water, the elder woman might take on tasks like mending clothes, preparing simple meals, or caring for infants and small children. Her wisdom in household management, herbal remedies, and food preservation remained crucial, but the physical strain lessened. This meant less time spent bent over a churning butter barrel or stirring a heavy stew pot, and more time for gentler supervisory roles that still contributed significantly to the household's functioning. This release from toil was not a sudden abandonment, but a gradual transition, often facilitated by the extended family structure. As children grew into adults, they naturally took on more of the family's workload, allowing their aging parents and grandparents to step back. This intergenerational support system was crucial, ensuring that elders were not left destitute or forced to continue heavy labor beyond their capabilities. It was a natural progression, a kind of retirement earned through a lifetime of dedicated effort, where their progeny cared for them in their later years, as they had been cared for in their youth. The shifting nature of their responsibilities also meant that elders had more time for other pursuits. They might dedicate more time to prayer and spiritual contemplation, to storytelling, or to simply enjoying the company of their family and community. This newfound leisure, however limited by modern standards, was a precious commodity in the medieval world. It allowed them to reflect on their lives, to share their wisdom, and to simply be present without the constant pressure of physical exertion. This was a profound comfort, a recognition of their years of hard work, offering a space for contemplation and gentle living. Furthermore, the very act of surviving to old age meant that one had already endured immense physical hardship. To be granted a respite from this continuous struggle was a true blessing. It was a societal acknowledgement that they had paid their dues, that their bodies had earned a rest. This transition from active laborer to respected elder, whose contributions were now valued for their wisdom rather than their brawn, was a significant joy. It offered not just physical relief, but a psychological liberation from the unending cycle of manual labor, allowing them to witness the fruits of their long toil without the burden of its ongoing performance. Number 8. The esteemed elder's seat at the hearth. In the bustling, close-knit communities of the Middle Ages, where life was lived in shared spaces and communal bonds were strong, growing old brought with it a distinct and deeply cherished privilege, a revered seat at the hearth, both literally and figuratively. This was not merely about physical comfort, but about the profound social status and respect that came with age. Elders were seen as fonts of wisdom, arbiters of disputes, and living embodiments of tradition, holding a position of honor that ensured their voices were heard, their counsel sought, and their presence cherished. This elevation in status provided a powerful sense of purpose and belonging, making old age a period of considerable social influence. At the literal hearth, the warm heart of any medieval home, the eldest members of the family often occupied the most comfortable and prominent seating. This was a visual representation of their authority and importance within the household. While younger generations bustled about tending to chores or playing, the elder might sit by the fire, perhaps mending, supervising, or simply observing. Their presence was a constant stabilizing force, a reminder of the family's history and continuity. This honored position was not just about warmth. It was about the respect afforded to their experience and their place as the head or respected advisor of the domestic unit. Beyond the home, elders were often the go-to figures for settling disputes within the community. When neighbors had a disagreement over land boundaries or families bickered over shared resources, formal legal systems were often distant or expensive. Instead, people turned to the oldest and most respected members of the community. Having witnessed generations of interactions, understood local customs, and known the character of individuals for decades, the elders' judgment carried immense weight. Their wisdom, born from a lifetime of observation, allowed them to offer nuanced advice and mediate conflicts, often preventing them from escalating. This role as an informal judge or peacemaker gave them significant power and reinforced their indispensable value to the community. Elders were also the keepers of tradition and custom. In a world largely governed by unwritten rules and practices passed down orally, The oldest members of the community were the authoritative source on how things had always been done. Whether it was the correct way to celebrate a festival, the proper etiquette for a marriage, or the traditional method for a seasonal harvest, the elders' word was often the final say. They ensured the continuity of cultural practices, maintaining a sense of order and identity in a changing world. This role as a living archive of community memory made them essential, their knowledge preventing the loss of vital heritage. In village meetings or local assemblies, the voices of elders were often given precedence. While younger, more physically active men might handle the immediate labor, it was the elder who might offer strategic advice, drawing on past experiences to guide decisions for the future. Their measured counsel, free from the impetuosity of youth, was highly valued, particularly when important communal matters like irrigation projects, defense strategies, or responses to famine were discussed. Their long lives had given them a perspective that spanned generations, making their insights invaluable for navigating complex challenges. For those elders who had held positions of authority in their younger years, such as former guildmasters, retired knights, or landowners, their status often continued, albeit in a more advisory capacity. A former knight, though no longer fighting battles, might be consulted on military strategy or matters of honor. A retired merchant might offer insights into trade routes or market conditions. Their previous achievements and accumulated wealth, if any, further cemented their respected position in society, allowing them to continue influencing events from a position of experience rather than active participation. Even in matters of marriage and family alliances, the elder's opinion was paramount. When considering a match for a child or grandchild, the wisdom of the elders was sought to ensure the alliance would benefit the family's long-term prosperity and social standing. Their ability to see beyond immediate infatuation, to understand the intricate social and economic implications of a marriage, made their counsel indispensable. This ongoing involvement in critical family decisions ensured that their intellectual contributions remained central to the family's future. This pervasive respect, this ingrained social reverence for old age, meant that elders were rarely isolated or overlooked. They were central to the social fabric, their presence acknowledged, their advice sought, and their comfort ensured. The esteemed elder's seat at the hearth was not just a place to rest. It was a symbol of a life well lived, a testament to wisdom gained, and a powerful acknowledgement of their enduring value to family and community alike, ensuring a meaningful and honored existence in their later years.